welcome to the Town of Vesuvius regular open meeting of council, October 22nd, 2024 at 2 p.m. in council chambers. And we first off need the approval of the agenda. Any late items? No? Thank you. Could we have a motion? Councillor King, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And the regular open minutes of October the 8th, 2024. We have a motion to have those adopted. Thank you. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And first up is water matters. And this is a Water District 8 and 9 financial accounts, and that the reported expenditures from accounts payable be received for information. And as of October the 22nd, those are in the amount of $33,422.51. Councillor Moreira is moving that for information. Councillor King is seconding it. All in favor. Thank you very much. And next is the correspondence from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. And they're at our latest meeting, which was earlier this month. Their water board or directors all shared priorities across Okanagan communities. And one of the big things that all communities are facing is increasing infrastructure costs for water filtration and treatment. And interesting that the Okanagan Nation Alliance director, Tim Lazard, said, in trying to protect source waters, if people don't pollute, we wouldn't have to pay to clean it up. And we all sort of agreed with that one for sure. But clean water source is very high on the list, and there's a number of initiatives and partnerships for source water protection. We're still in drought level 2 in the Okanagan. However, because of the predicted La Nina winter, there could be more water. It will likely be in the form of rain, but not snow. So rain is okay, but snow melts more slowly and therefore recharges things more easily. And expanded milfoil control options. The province has provided an updated 5-year permit to manage milfoil in the Okanagan. And that's a good thing because OBWB was always fighting to try and get a mandate to increase places where they could contact and get rid of the milfoil. So milfoil has a number of negative economic, tourism, and water quality effects and can become a hazard for swimmers and boaters. So this new permit allows for a more agile, science-based response to invasive weed management in the Okanagan, and that's a good thing. So could we have the OBWB the board report received for information, please? Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Next is staff reports. Mr. Risling, council support for regional emergency equipment grant application.
Thank you, Your Worship. The administration continues to seek grant opportunities, especially in the situations where they're 100% funded. Council's also aware that we've been working with RDOS to work together to do more of a regional approach to emergency responses, and this is another one of those opportunities where we could work as a region to provide, I guess, better resources when the next event occurs, which we know it's going to happen. So what this request is for some tiger dams. These are very useful when there's flooding, and so we want to seek a grant that can be I guess go into a group pot of the RDOS to purchase a bunch of tiger dams with trailers. So it'd be kind of a regional approach. All the municipalities are submitting applications to try to get some funding, and this way we'll have a couple trailers full of these tiger dams, and they'll be deployed on an as needed basis. So I think it's a great opportunity to work together and a great opportunity to actually have resources available that would make a significant improvement to an area when these events occur. So we're asking that council supports a regional application to UBCM's Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Disaster Risk Reduction Non-Structural Activities Stream to procure 2 fully equipped Tiger Dam trailers with dams and accessories for deployment throughout the region where there is a risk of flooding, and that the town of Vesuvius approves the regional district of Okanagan-Similkameen to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding of approximately $600,000 on their behalf.
Thank you very much. And I do know that tiger dams are much easier to control. You can take the water out of them, roll them up, and they're reusable. So they're much lighter, much easier to manage. I do know after the last flood here 5 years ago, whenever it was, we had a couple of years of floods, that some waterfront owners bought their own tiger dams. And I'm not sure how long they last, but certainly they rolled them up and they have them ready in case that happens again. So I think this is a good idea. Councillor Chong, do you want to speak to it?
Oh, I just had a question. In terms of priority, with 2 of the tiger dams, usually if there is a flood with the Similkameen River, multiple areas are affected. So who gets them first?
So good question, and that hasn't been established yet. So something we're going to work on. We know that if we were to get 50,000 worth of tiger dams just for our community, it wouldn't do anything. So we're going to set up some type of a priority type application process. It's not perfect, but it is something that can go to, I guess, the greater good. That detail has not been worked out, and could it cause issues at some point? It could. But again, if we were to go in alone, the amount that we'd get wouldn't really make a difference to ourselves anyways.
So, Councillor King?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make a motion we support the application.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Chong. All in favor? Thank you, everyone. And the next one is Mrs. Coulson. It's the Vesuvius Participation in Regional Sign Initiative.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen has invited the town of Vesuvius to add their logo to a sign that they're proposing that would say one region working together, surrounded by the logos of all the participating member municipalities in the regional district. And the idea is to place one of these signs in each of the municipal offices. And it's meant to symbolize and kind of affirm our commitment to working together on common issues, and also to be producing regulatory and service provision procedures and guidelines that are equitable across the entire region.
Thank you very much. This was brought up last week at our regional district meeting, and certainly we all support it there. The logo is one region working together, and there's a mutual benefit in having this. There's strength in advocating to the province and the feds for money. There's also efficiencies and cost when ordering things. It's an important consideration. There's district expertise, so we're not just dealing with people on staff that may not have that expertise. And with some issues like the solid waste, many areas in the district already have to work together to do that. So it kind of makes sense to all of us at the regional district table anyway that this was a good way to proceed and working together. So could I have a motion? Yes.
I have a question first.
Yes.
Could you tell me the approximate size of this sign?
I've only seen a prototype sign at the regional district's office, and I would say it's hanging up in their boardroom. I would say it's probably about 2 feet by 3 feet, but whether that's the finished sign size, I don't know.
I'm not sure that, I think it had to be that large in order to put everybody's logo on it, but I don't think it would probably be that large to come down here. It might be the one at the regional district office, but I'm not sure. Do you know anything? No, Ben? So we'd have to look at that. I don't think they've decided yet, but they will provide signs for all of us.
The other question is, Is there any benefit to put it somewhere else besides in town hall, like at Sonora Center, where more people could see we're working collectively together?
I think that hasn't been decided. We could certainly look at that when the time comes. Depends what the size of it and where it best fits, for sure. So you've made the motion? Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bennett has seconded that. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next is general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. So as of October the 22nd, general cash requirements are in the amount of $565,555.96. Sun Bowl cash requirements of $50,182.67 and net payroll accounts of $160,034.41. Could we have a motion, please, to receive that for information? Councillor Potterica, Councillor Chong, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, we're now going on to OCP bylaws, OCP and zoning bylaw, and this would be at 6819 and 6821 Cottonwood Drive, and I believe it, Mr. Kent. So this is Ben Kent from the Regional District Planning Department. So would you like to explain this to us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this item relates to official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment, file number Z23-05. Okay. And these amendments apply at the properties 6819 Cottonwood Drive and 6821 Cottonwood Drive. The two properties do have different zoning designations currently under the OCP and the zoning bylaw. 6819 is zoned and designated medium density residential, while the adjacent property is zoned and designated for low density residential. Combined, the two properties are about 2,400 square meters in area. They're both within the urban containment boundary. And the one property is vacant, while 6821 does have an existing accessory building on it. I think we're both clicking through this. Yeah, you can go. Okay, so we've got some conceptual drawings here. The proposed amendments are to accommodate an eventual 19-unit townhouse development. And the proposed development would require the eventual consolidation of the two properties, which would allow for a more efficient development of this townhouse proposal. Because 6821 is currently zoned and designated low density residential. It's the property that requires the OCP and zoning bylaw amendment to match the adjacent property at 6819. And the proposed medium density residential zone does allow for apartment building and townhouses as principal uses. And a proposed site-specific amendment is included as the permitted density in the medium density residential 1 zone for a 2,400 square meter property would be a maximum of 18 units. The proposal is for 19 units. I think if you do the math on that 75 dwelling unit per hectare, it works out to about 18.39, not a substantial increase above the bylaw regulation. So the low density residential designation generally supports housing in the form of a single attached dwelling. This could include accessory dwellings or secondary suites. All in, that would be a maximum of 3 to 4 dwelling units per the recent provincial changes. Whereas the medium density residential zone allows for densities up to 75 units per hectare. And included with that medium density residential designation is a multifamily residential development permit area that speaks to the form and character of eventual developments in that area. So the proposed amendment is to amend the official community plan designation at 6821 Cottonwood Drive This would be from low density residential to medium density residential. And similarly, the zoning bylaw would be amended from small scale multi-unit residential 1 to medium density residential 1 site specific. That site specific provision being for the additional 1 dwelling unit above the 18 dwelling units permitted by the zoning. So in considering the proposed amendments, the town is expected to require an additional 599 to 2,100, nearly 2,200 new residential units by 2040. And as a result, the official community plan bylaw acknowledges that the town has very little developable land for residential purpose. And because of this, it encourages compact, efficient use of residentially zoned parcels where servicing can accommodate new development. The town's official community plan also includes housing policies that support providing a mix, different diverse forms of housing. And the housing needs report included in the OCP also indicates that housing affordability is one of the primary challenges for the creation of new housing in the town. The OCP also acknowledges that the town is primarily comprised of single-family dwellings, and as a result, to accommodate more diverse demographic groups, more diverse price points, and accommodate residents that might have diverse needs in housing, it encourages a mix of new housing forms, and in particular encourages that these diverse housing forms be provided in a compact, efficient form. Of note, these two properties currently straddle the boundary between the low density residential and medium density residential zoning districts. So the one property is currently medium density residential and the other is low density residential. The proposal would be to consolidate these two parcels to allow for a more efficient use of that land rather than building out the much smaller existing medium density residential property.
Ben, can I just interrupt and ask, are these two properties owned by the same person, same company?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, good. That helps.
And as mentioned, the zone district is currently split between the two properties. So mentioned in my previous slide. So the Town of Vesuvius Fire Department has indicated that as the proposed development be greater than 3 stories in height, an aerial apparatus may be required to ensure adequate fire suppression should the development be constructed as proposed in these conceptual drawings. So for these reasons, the recommendation from staff is that the Town of Vesuvius OCP amendment bylaw and zoning amendment bylaw be read a first and second time, and that a public hearing be scheduled for November 12th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I had forgotten that those properties were there, so I went and looked at them. Yeah, you're quite right. They're both open. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On my presentation, page 20, I'm just curious, you got an RM1 and then an RM1S. What's the S?
So the S is a site-specific regulation that's proposed with the zoning amendment. It's to accommodate the additional 1 dwelling unit above the density prescribed in the zoning bylaw. So the zoning bylaw is 75 units per hectare. On these sites, it would allow for 18 units. The proposal is for 19 units.
Anybody else? Okay. Council, what's your wish here? Go ahead, Councillor Poderica.
Your worship, I would move that up one, that first, second, third, or reading, first and second reading be read this, be read and proceed to public hearing and that, and that, and that, and that, and that.
The other 5 things, for
And
sure.
all the others.
Okay. Councillor Chung is seconding that. Go ahead, you have a question?
Thank you. What would be the approximate timeline for like build and then occupancy unknown?
it would be at the discretion of the developer.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we go with the recommended motion. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. And we will move on to another one for Mr. Kent. This is a zoning bylaw amendment application at 4601 97th Street. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay, so this item is file number Z24-01. It's a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Location of this property is 4601 97th Street. Under the OCP, it is currently designated medium density residential, and it is zoned medium density residential 1. The parcel size is approximately 1.4 hectares, and it is also within the urban containment area. It's currently vacant, although I understand that there is some site work currently being undertaken in preparation for eventual development. Okay, so the proposal is to allow for the inclusion of secondary suites within the townhouse units that are proposed for the site. It's understood that the intent of this is to provide options to eventual purchasers of these properties to upgrade the townhouse unit with a secondary suite. And to accommodate this, the current medium density residential 1 zone permits townhouse as a principal use, but it does not permit secondary suites as an accessory use within those primary townhouse units. The zone does allow for a maximum density of 75 dwelling units per hectare, and in the case of this property, the maximum theoretical build out would be approximately 106 dwelling units based on that density provision. And the proposal involves amending the zoning designation on the property from medium density residential 1 to medium density residential 1 site specific. That site specific provision is to add an additional use class of secondary suite under the permitted accessory uses. So for this proposal, as the proposed development is entirely residential in nature and is consistent with the official community plan, it is captured by the recent provincial amendments to the Local Government Act, whereby the town is prohibited from holding a public hearing. Accordingly, notice of the proposed zoning bylaw was provided in this case prior to first reading, rather than the conventional route at public hearing. So in considering the merits of this proposal, as mentioned with the previous application, the town is expected to require a significant number of new residential units by 2040. And the official community plan bylaw does acknowledge that the town has very limited developable residential land and encourages that compact, efficient use of residential land where servicing permits. Similarly, the town's official community plan contains supportive policy with respect to providing a mix of housing types, variety and diversity of housing stock. The town's housing needs report also indicates that housing affordability is the primary, most common housing challenge in Osoyoos. And similarly, diverse types of residential development are encouraged to support a variety of different demographic groups. In particular, more intensive forms of housing are necessary to accommodate this future growth in residential dwellings. The medium density residential designation generally supports the form, built form of apartment buildings and townhouses. As mentioned, it allows up to 75 units per hectare. And the proposal to include secondary suites within 50 townhouses is seen to be consistent with both this built form and this intensity of use on the property. In response to the proposal, referral responses were received relating to the sanitary system. So it is anticipated that the existing servicing capacity can accommodate the proposed development, although it is near the limit of capacity for downstream locations. which is expected if the town is going to be seeing more high-density developments going forward in the future. And just as a note, the town is currently undertaking a DCC bylaw update, which would consider increased flows from higher density development, just in recognition that this is a challenge going forward. And for these considerations, the recommendation is that the Town of Vesuvius zoning bylaw amendment number 1395.02 2024 be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kent. I have a big problem with this piece of property, and it's not because I don't want to see more residential down there, and I think it looks like a good plan. My concern is the access to get into the property and out of the property. And I drive by that on a daily basis, sometimes 2 or 3 times. What I have noticed right now when they're doing the developing is that there is a road that comes up, which is kind of a blind spot there, comes right out facing south, and yet I have seen trucks and with trailers come out that way, turn and go up the road and cross over 3 lanes of traffic. It's an 80 kilometer a mile or a zone, miles zone down there. There's a bad corner there. I've been stopped on the highway and that's fine. I don't mind that. But I'm concerned about increased density down there. And according to the map that is provided, there is one way in and out. And I don't think that's safe. And I'm surprised that the Department of Highways has not recommended something a little different. Does that have anything to do with planning? No, probably doesn't.
No, so the built form and the density on the property is already permitted by the zoning bylaw. The change only relates to the specific form of accessory residential use. So it'd just be those secondary suites that are proposed. Otherwise, it's not increasing use or density on the site. As the property is within 800 meters of a controlled access, Highway 97, the ministry is automatically referred as part of the zoning bylaw amendment process. No comments were received in relation to that access, although they would have final sign off before adoption of the bylaw.
Department of the Ministry of Transportation.
Transportation
Well,
and Infrastructure.
that concerns me that with the one exit and entrance onto a busy highway, that you're going to increase the density there without having a good look at it. So I'm not sure, and I understand that that's not what you were here for, but that concerns me about moving forward with this particular piece of property. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. So with the townhouses, they have the possibility for a secondary suite, but they're not completely built out, is my understanding.
Yeah,
then is there considerations for additional parking? Because each unit requires, I forgot the number, the ratio, is it 1.5 or 1 parking spot per dwelling? But then once you build out a secondary suite, then you're going to need additional parking. And I would hate to see parking spillover negatively affect the surrounding neighborhood.
Go ahead, Ben.
At the time that a building permit would be submitted for the townhouses and the accompanying suites, they would be required to provide all parking on site.
Councillor King and then
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam Mayor.
Poderica.
I guess I'm just dealing with the highways. I know this would fit into our new bylaws with the suites, but does it go to highways again, since they're kind of adding 50 more potential suites? Has it gone to highways? Or?
Yes, they
With
would have
this
been
new-
referred prior
new-
to first reading. Yes, that's correct.
It can't answer to this right now. You'd have to do it another time. So I do see that that Modi is there, and this was June the 14th, 2024, before this came forward, and they've granted a rezoning for 1 year. And so I'm just wondering if you're going to change the zoning on there, does the Department of Highways need to be notified? Due to the configuration of the property? Do you know that, Mr. Risling? No? Oh,
I-
sorry, do
I
you
can
know
speak
that,
to it.
Ben? Okay, I
Yeah,
wasn't sure.
so under the Local Government Act, if a zoning bylaw is proposed to be amended within 800 meters of a controlled access highway, the ministry is required to be referred and notified. So that's the schedule that you'd see on the agenda is their preliminary approval, which generally occurs prior to first reading. Before adoption, they would have to provide final sign off of the draft bylaw.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
I'll move option 1.
Is there a seconder for that? Option 1, that the bylaw be read a first, second, and third time. That then triggers all these other things that all these other groups that have to respond. Okay. Is there a seconder? No. Okay. And then you wanted to say something, sorry. Okay. So first and second, it's moved and seconded. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. And I know there was a question earlier about the parking component, and I think it's somewhere in here does say that there is currently 4 stalls per proposed unit. I'm just wondering if those were actually in the unit or the additional parking on the property. Is it? It's hard to tell based on the drawings and the renderings that we've seen here, but it seems like a lot to be proposed in the current proposal, but on the original proposal, I guess, but without the intention, but.
Yeah, so all of the drawings included with the application are conceptual. It's not necessarily reflective of the final build out as it's just at zoning stage right now. But certainly they would be required to meet the parking standards of the zoning bylaw prior to building permit.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that this zoning bylaw be read a first, second, and third time. All in favor? Against? I'm against. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Next is the municipal ticket information bylaw amendment, and that's Ben again. Oh, Mark, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Surprise. This is the municipal information, ticket information, I should say, amendment bylaw that was triggered by the adoption of the new zoning bylaw. Council saw this for first through third readings on October the 8th, and it's here today for council's consideration of adoption.
Thank you very much. So it has gone through first, second, and third reading, and we're just looking at something's going on next door. We're just looking at adopting this bylaw. It was a first, second, and third reading was on October the 8th. Is there a motion? Thank you. Councillor Potterica, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ben. Appreciate that. We're now going to go back to reports of committees and committee of the whole. And from the committee of the whole this morning, we have authorized that the notice of intention to lease the building located at Lot 1A, District Lot 2450, Similkameen Division, Yale District Plan 120 to the Asuyusan District Arts Council for a 5-year term at a rate of $50 per month per year. Year 1, $100 per month for year 2, $150 per month for year 3, $200 per month for year 4, and $250 per month for year 5, plus utilities. So that was brought up this morning, and we now need a motion to bring this into this meeting. Is there somebody? Go ahead. Councillor Chong, Councillor Potterica, all in favor. Thank you. And also, from the committee of the whole meeting this morning, it was moved that council add to the strategic priorities chart a multi-purpose facility that incorporates existing and potentially additional beneficial community organizations. And so we need a motion to accept that. Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you very much. And now we're looking at a report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I got one more reminder here for the grant funding that's available through the RMI and the Community Services Grant. That application deadline is October 31st. So any groups that are looking for grant funding, please get your application in as soon as possible. The fall programs they've started, and most popular programs include Healthy Back, gymnastics, and a parent and child archery program. October 31st, it's Halloween Howl, so staff are preparing for that. We've hired a water operator, Mr. Brendan Jones. He'll be starting with us here in a week or so we're happy about that. In bylaw, they've been focusing on a few things. Dogs at large is still an issue, and we're having more overnight camping violations. So that's something that we haven't been impacted too much by that in the past. We have had some, but we've certainly seen an escalation with that. So we're going to have to focus some more time on that specific issue. The fire department did a lot of things over the last couple of weeks. October 6th to 12th was Fire Prevention Week. Had the open house at the fire hall on Saturday, October 12th from 10 to 12, and as well attended. About 50 parents and children were visited. They also visited the elementary school, teaching fire prevention and stop, drop, and roll. And a new program, I think it was talked about once already, but we got 4 new students from high school that have started their work experience program at the fire hall. They will participate in training on Wednesday nights and get to experience what it's like to be a firefighter. So it's, I think, a great initiative that gets people interested in that. I guess it could be volunteer or career. New business licenses, Asu's Plumbing and Drainage, Starbucks Coffee, and Nailed It, which is a general maintenance inter-community business license, and a change of address for Strike the Pose. On the operational side, I think the piece I'm just going to bring up, because you're hearing it on the news and it's important, although it doesn't feel like it yet, it's winter time, so they're changing our fleet to have the proper winter tires on all the vehicles. So just a reminder to the public to do the same. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to council reports. Councillor Poderica. I'm sorry, we need to receive that for information. Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thanks. Go ahead, Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Your Worship. October the 11th, October 10th, attended the Tourism Master Plan Public Open House over at the museum across the street. On the 11th, I met with yourself as well as with Vasile Risling with the Tourism Master Plan Task Force meeting with all our partners working to wrap up that project shortly. October the 12th, attended the Asu's Fire Rescue Open House. October 15th, met with Vasile Risling with ODES, Asu's Airport Development Society, regarding for our committee meeting, and attended a DO, I think it was the next day, a committee meeting for Destination Asu's as well. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week, I attended Accessibility and Age-Friendly Committee. And one of the new things we're talking about is partnering with the South Okanagan Chamber and DO and have an open house and try to get business to come to the open house where we can present some possible new ideas to help them be more accessible at their storefronts, and also give an update on what type of equipment's available around town. That's my report.
Great, thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also attended the park planning open house. And then October 9th, I did had a meeting with ETCI, which is the Economic Trust of the Southern Interior, and basically was to do with regional transportation initiatives and update seminars. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of this is done sort of at the college. They took a grant and they prepared so when the students come to school, they would have the buses there to be there when they got there first thing in the morning and later at night. So they worked the bus schedule around the student schedule. They did some stuff like ride sharing. That's kind of more over in the Kootenays, and also Ride Sharp, where they're ride sharing, where they're going to do bus trains. So basically, October 10th was the last intake of funding. And so basically, if anybody's interested, they can look up Economic Trust of the Southern Interior, and there'll be some more grants coming available. That's my report.
Thank you. And I'm a director on ETSI-BC, so I do know this is the fall intake, and there is another one starting in the spring. So anybody who didn't get into this intake can apply to that one. So good idea. Councillor Chung.
Thank you. A little bit of a quiet 2 weeks, but I am happy to announce that we are working with a group of individuals to make sure that Osoyoos Beach Volleyball does continue. So we're forming a nonprofit, and we will be applying for some grant funding just to get started. I know it's there have been some who've been holding their breath, seeing if it will continue in the summer, and we're working diligently to make sure that it will. So that's essentially. Oh, and I'm really looking forward to Trick or Treat on Main Street. Yeah. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Yes, Trick or Treat Main Street is on October the 31st from, I think it's 2 till 5. And lots of stores on Main Street are getting ready for this. Certainly Town Hall is as well. I know that. I've had a couple of busy weeks. I was at the Tourism Master Plan, the open house at the museum, and then quite a long meeting the next day. The Tourism Master Plan is almost ready, and we've had a lot of discussions about it, those of us that are on the committee, and there's a final meeting to present it to everybody in about 2 weeks, the first week in November. I attended on October the 11th in the evening. I attended the Sun Bowl Arena. There was a game on that night, but just before that, I was able to speak to the 50th anniversary of the Sun Bowl Arena. I thought it was quite interesting in researching it, and Mrs. Colson was very helpful, and so was the Sonora Center. One of the ring bearers, one of the ribbon cutters on that day was 2-year-old Renee Lemke, and so I phoned her parents and said, why was Renee at age 2 a ribbon cutter, which seemed a little young, and so Dawn said she thought it was because she was the youngest figure skater at the arena. And so interesting that Dawn Lemke then 30 years later, in continuing in her athletic ability, went on to be part of the BC curling team that won the Scotties 2 years in a row, and also won the Worlds over in Japan in 2007. So that was pretty exciting to see her name on there. Lots of people that were involved. Mayor Jack Shaw, Jack Shaw Gardens is named after him, was there, and so was Chief Dan George. Now, I think you have to be a little older to remember who Chief Dan George was, but he's been in movies, and he was quite well known, and he was there for the opening as well. So it was interesting to research all of that and to actually talk to that at the meeting, and to also say congratulations to the Osoyoos Coyotes, who have been at the Sun Bowl Arena for 15 years. So I spent a long day at the RDOS, where we had a 4-hour start to the day talking about priorities and strategic planning. And the regional district, it's the office there is the local government for unincorporated areas. So municipalities do have office staff, and we have town hall, but the regional district office is the local government for the 9 areas in our regional district. There are 27 regional districts in British Columbia, and British Columbia is the only province that has these. Does not happen in any of the other provinces. So, but of course, anything that happens at the regional district table impacts the municipalities as well, which is why one region working together we are stronger. So I'm very happy that we've supported that this afternoon. So we were looking at how can we share resources, equipment, grants, advocate for the whole Okanagan-Similkameen. We looked at themes and priorities and garbage and recycling, and all of those kinds of things are involved in this. And so this was to start off, and we have another 4-hour session in a couple of weeks where we will continue this and come up with a list of priorities similar to what we have. And I told them, all of them at the meeting, what we were doing in Osoyoos in terms of our priorities chart. So speaking of garbage and recycling and yard waste and green waste, that has been many, many years trying to find a place that would do that, because the regional district, Area A, and Osoyoos garbage and recycling has to be looked at as well. There is going to be an open house. The date has not been set yet, but it will be at the Sonora Center, and it will be put on by the RDOS, and they will have lots of information there, and people can come and ask questions and so on. When that date has been set by the regional district, we will let everybody know. And yesterday, I was on a Teams meeting for a couple of hours with the IJC, International Joint Commission, and the Osoyoos Lake, International Osoyoos Lake Board of Control. It was the semi-annual meeting, was held in Ottawa. I went to it about 5 years ago, but it's a report for an hour on what things were done with our Board of Control. And we just had our annual meeting a couple of weeks ago. So it was quite interesting to be part of that and listen to it. And I just want to remind people that Remembrance Day is coming up. Of course, there's Halloween first, and then there is Remembrance Day on November the 11th, but we do not have another council meeting until November the 12th. So Remembrance Day is at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's over at the Sonora Center. And usually it's very well, there's usually not very much room to sit down. There's people that stand, and it's a very nice ceremony put on by the Royal Canadian Legion. So that's all I had for today, and I will move to the in-camera section. That pursuant to Section 91 of the Community Charter, a part of the council meeting may be closed to the public. The subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following. 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Could I have a motion, please? Thank you, Councillor.